To see the future, we need to be alive. In March of 2022, I was in Europe and on the phone constantly, trying to piece together a way out for 33 children hiding in a basement in eastern Ukraine, just 20 miles from the front line. And all I had been working toward came down to one question. Could we move fast enough to keep them alive? They were orphans. Air raid sirens had become part of their daily lives. The world outside was dangerous, unpredictable, and loud. Inside the shelter, the children sat shoulder to shoulder on a concrete floor. Their coats were zipped to their chins. Backpacks were wedged between shaking knees. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know if they would leave. They only knew that if they stayed where they were, they might not survive. So, they waited for news, waited for the next siren, waited for someone, somewhere, to say what would happen next. Can you imagine? 33 children sitting in a basement, waiting to find out whether they would live. The evacuation could happen that day if the funds arrived that day. Not next month money, not someday money, that day money. Thousands of miles away, here in Savannah, a man named Richard made a decision. Richard had never met the children. He did not know their names. But his response was immediate. I want to help. I'm doing it today. And he did. He covered the full cost that same day. Because of his decision, 33 children are alive today. My team and I facilitated their evacuation across borders and brought them to safety in a small German city called Augsburg. That entire experience revealed something important to me. When we hear about any kind of disaster, we usually hear numbers first. Cities destroyed, armies moving, millions displaced. The scale of suffering can become so enormous that our minds struggle to hold it all. The problems can feel distant, abstract, almost impossible to comprehend. And when something feels impossible for us to comprehend or influence, we often disengage. It's the responsibility dilemma. We may begin telling ourselves that the solutions belongs to governments, institutions, experts. We may assume the future will be shaped someday by someone else. But the future isn't just an idea. It can be a person like a child, sitting on a basement floor, waiting for someone they might never meet to care. And the real barrier is not the size of the problem. The real barrier is distance. Distance between ourselves and other people. Empathy can close that distance. It activates when something becomes personal. And that's exactly what happened with Richard. When he heard where the children were being taken, Augsburg, something remarkable surfaced. That city meant something to him. Centuries earlier, Richard's family ancestors, the Salzburgers, were forced to flee their homes because of their Protestant faith. They arrived in Augsburg as refugees. People there opened their doors. They gave them food, shelter, and protection. Eventually, the Salzburgers crossed the Atlantic Ocean and settled along the Savannah River. So when Richard heard of Ukrainian children fleeing war and headed to Augsburg, history suddenly felt personal. His family had once been the refugees. And it was as if the past was whispering something to the present. In the face of global problems, we often ask, how do we fix all of this? That question can freeze us. Richard asked a different question. What can I do for 33 children today? Richard didn't end the war, but 33 children got to keep their future. So I became curious. Where does someone like Richard come from? I happen to know that back in 3rd grade, Richard's teacher made the class an unusual offer. If they brought nickels in the next day, they would get to see a monkey. Richard had never seen a monkey before. No zoo, no circus. He was thrilled. The next day, the teacher lined her students up outside of the classroom, and one by one, she collected their nickels and sent them inside. When Richard's turn came, she pointed to a large wooden barrel in the middle of the room. "Look inside," she said. He leaned over the barrel. At the bottom was a mirror. The teacher laughed. "You are the monkey." Richard didn't find that as funny as the teacher did, and he never got his nickel back. Years later, when I was researching empathy, this story took on a deeper meaning for me. Scientists studying monkeys had made a fascinating discovery. They found that certain brain cells fired when monkeys picked up different objects. The same cells also fired when monkeys simply watched others pick up the objects. The brain was mirroring the action, and scientists called these cells mirror neurons. Later research found that we humans have them too. For example, when we see someone in pain, areas of our brain associated with the pain activate, and in a small way, we can feel what they feel. And this is how empathy begins. When we recognize ourselves in someone else's story, distance disappears, and action becomes possible. And in this case, empathy in action saved 33 lives. Later, when the children wrote to Richard to thank him for his generosity, they also illustrated how empathy multiplies. One of the girls wrote, "When I grow up, I want to help children the way you helped us." And in that moment, the future was already unfolding. Then I discovered something else. In Richard's home hangs a framed copy of a speech his mother gave as a high school student in the 1940s. I translated it into Ukrainian, and when the children arrived safely, we read it aloud together. One line in particular stood out to all of us. "The slow way is the sure way." For children who had just escaped a war and were learning to begin again, it gave them something steady to hold on to. His mother had written it for her classmates. She never imagined how her words would endure, and yet they did. For these children, they became a kind of cure. We don't always see the impact of what we do or how far it travels. Sometimes a sentence spoken in one room can cross an ocean to reach someone who needs it, even generations later. The decisions we make today may reach someone we will never meet. The future is shaped by human connection across time. And that matters as much as ever, because we live in a world where technology is advancing faster than ever before. The truth is, no technology in the world could have saved those children without Richard making one human decision. Yes, machines can process data. Algorithms can help predict outcomes. Technology can assist us, but it cannot decide to care. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "There are no ordinary people. If that is true, there are no ordinary decisions." Somewhere, right now, someone's future may depend on the decision we make today. The future could be someone waiting for us. And knowing Richard's story, perhaps the next time we see an opportunity to help, we will. Not because we have to, because we can.